Okay, I am so excited to be sharing today's recipe. We are going to be making the most incredibly light and airy, better than bakery coffee sponge cake that literally melts in your mouth. It consists of super soft coffee sponge cake layers that are frosted with a creamy coffee whipped cream frosting. So to start off, you want to preheat your oven to 180°C or 350°F conventional and line the bottom of two 8x3" cake tins with parchment paper, and you want to leave the bottom and sides ungreased. This is just going to help achieve a tall and fluffy sponge because the sponge is going to stick to the sides of the cake tin as it rises in the oven. So you just want to pop your cake tins aside for now, and next we're going to combine our dry ingredients. You don't need to sift the dry ingredients just yet. So in a bowl, add in 40 grams or a third cup of plain all-purpose flour, 60 grams or half a cup of cornstarch, a quarter teaspoon of baking powder, a quarter teaspoon of salt, and 2 tablespoons of instant coffee powder. Then you just want to give that a good mix with a whisk until it's well combined and set it aside for now. Now next we're going to separate the yolks and whites from 4 large room temperature eggs. I just like to use my hands to do this. I find that the egg yolks are less likely to break that way. Just make sure that your hands are nice and clean. And you also want to make sure that while you're separating the yolks from the whites, none of the egg yolks get into your egg whites. Now I've just popped my egg whites into a medium-sized bowl, and to that I'm going to add 1/8 teaspoon of white vinegar. This is just going to help stabilize the egg whites, and then using a hand or stand mixer, you want to whip on a medium-high speed for 30 seconds until the egg whites are foamy, and then you want to gradually add in 66 grams or a third cup of white granulated sugar. And then once all the sugar is added in, you just want to continue mixing for about another 2 to 3 minutes or until you're almost at that stiff peak stage. Now once you've almost got stiff peaks, you want to turn your mixer down to a low speed and mix for a further minute. And this will just help to get rid of any large air bubbles, which will further stabilize the egg whites. And then once you're done, you should have stiff peaks like this. Now you just want to get as much of the egg whites off of your attachments and then just set your egg whites aside for now. Next, in a large bowl, you want to add in a further 66 grams or a third cup of white granulated sugar and 1.5 tablespoons of warm water. You don't want it to be boiling, just warm. And now using a spatula, mix so that the sugar is coated in the water. This is just going to help dissolve the sugar. And then you want to add in the 4 egg yolks from earlier and 2 teaspoons of vanilla. And then using a hand or stand mixer, whip on a medium-high speed for about 4 minutes until the egg yolks are thick and pale. And then you want to turn the mixer down to low and mix for a further minute to stabilize the egg yolk mixture. Now once you're done, your mixture should be thick and you should be able to create ribbons with it. Now to the egg yolk mixture, you want to stream in 30 grams or 2 tablespoons of unflavoured vegetable oil. I like to use canola oil. And you want to do this while mixing on a low speed. Now once all the vegetable oil is in, just give that a good mix until it's well combined. Now you just want to get any of the egg yolk mixture off of your attachments because the rest of the mixing we're going to be doing by hand. So next you want to add in half of your egg whites to your egg yolk mixture, and using a spatula gently fold that in until almost combined. You don't want to overmix. Now once that's done, you want to sift in your dry ingredients from earlier, and again gently fold with a spatula until just combined. Now to finish off, you want to add in the remaining egg whites and gently fold until just combined. You can use your spatula to break up any large chunks of unmixed egg whites by kind of gently pushing them up against the side of the bowl, but try not to push out too many of the air bubbles and do not overmix. So that is our batter all done. It smells so incredible. And you should have, this kind of consistency. And now you just want to evenly distribute this into our 2 pre-prepared cake tins from earlier. Remember, you do not want to grease the tins. You only want to line the bottoms with parchment paper. Whenever you bake, make sure that you get all of that batter out of the bowl. You don't want to waste any of it. Now, once all the batter is in, I'm just going to weigh my cake tins just to make sure that I have the same amount in each cake tin. And then you also want to run a toothpick or thin knife through the batter, and this is just going to help remove any large air bubbles so that you don't have any holes when you come to cutting through your cake. And then you also want to drop the cake tins lightly on the counter, and this will also remove any large air bubbles. Okay, now these are ready to go into the oven for 25 minutes or until the top is set and slowly bounces back when you touch it. You should be able to create a little indent with your fingertip that, slowly springs back. Now, once the sponges are done, the following steps are very important. So you want to immediately drop the cake tins on the counter from a height of about 10 centimeters. This is going to help release excess steam and prevent your sponges from sinking. And then you want to lay them upside down while still in their baking tins on a wire rack to completely cool. And don't worry, they're not going to fall out of the tins because we haven't greased the sides. So about 45 minutes later, the cakes are cool now, so you want to run a thin knife along the edges of the cake tins and then turn the cakes out and remove the parchment paper. Don't worry if the cakes look like they have kind of like a slight indent on the bottoms. That will correct itself once we frost the cakes. Now, the final step that I like to do to prepare my sponges before we make the frosting is to gently rub off that top layer of skin on the top of the cake. I find that top layer of skin can sometimes have a slight eggy taste, so I just like to take it off, but this is optional though, so you can skip this step if you prefer. Now, if you take a closer look, you can see just how incredibly soft and flexible these coffee sponge cake layers are. So now that our sponges are all ready to go, we are now going to go ahead and make our creamy coffee whipped cream frosting. It is honestly so easy to make. So to a large bowl, add in 55 grams or half a cup of powdered sugar, 225 grams or 1 cup of cold mascarpone, 1 teaspoon of vanilla, and 1 tablespoon of instant coffee powder. And then using a hand or stand mixer, give that a good mix until it's well combined. Now to that, you want to add in 335 grams or 1.5 cups of cold heavy whipping cream, and first mix on a low speed just to allow everything to combine without the cream splattering everywhere. And then turn up the speed to a medium-high and whip until you reach stiff heat. Make sure to keep a close eye on it when it does start to thicken up because you don't want to over whip the cream. And then that is our coffee whipped cream frosting all done. It is so incredibly easy to make. Okay, so we are now ready to assemble this cake. So I'm going to place my first cake layer onto my cake stand and spread out a generous amount of the coffee whipped cream frosting on the top with my offset spatula. Next, I'm placing my next cake layer on top and again spreading out a generous amount of frosting on the top of the cake, and then I'm also covering the sides as well. Once I have frosting all over the cake, I then like to go in with my cake scraper to smooth out the edges. And then I use my offset spatula to bring that top lip of frosting into the middle of the cake so that I have some nice sharp edges. Now to finish off, I'm just going to place the rest of my frosting into a piping bag with a 1M piping tip, and I'm going to pipe some swirls on the top of my cake. And then that is my coffee sponge cake all done. This coffee sponge cake is so incredibly light and airy. It's like biting into a cloud. It has a wonderful coffee flavor coming through, and that light coffee whipped cream frosting just pairs perfectly with that light coffee sponge. Now when slicing this cake, you want to use a serrated knife and kind of cut it in like a gentle sawing motion because the cake layers are so incredibly light and soft that you don't want to kind of just go with a heavy knife and just slice it because otherwise it might squash the sponges. It's so good. I cannot tell you guys how incredibly proud I am of this recipe. It's just so light and soft and fluffy, and yeah, it's so good. And that coffee whipped cream frosting is like out of this world. Because this cake is so light, you do have to be a little bit careful because you can easily go through like 2 or 3 of these slices without even realizing. So that is it for today, guys. If you do decide to give this coffee sponge cake a go, then please do leave a review on my blog. It really helps my content out and I absolutely love hearing from you guys. I'll see you in the next video.